Prabhupada Ki Jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today we're hearing from Canto 3, chapter 25, verse number 12. Zero. And this verse says, Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions. And thus, his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Devahuti was surrendered. Devahuti had surrendered her confession of material entanglement and her desire to gain release. Her questions to Lord Kapila are very interesting for persons who are actually trying to get liberation from material entanglement and attain the perfectional stage of human life. Unless one is interested in understanding his spiritual life or his constitutional position, and unless he also feels inconvenience in material existence, his human form of life is spoiled. One who does not care for these transcendental necessities of life and simply engages like an animal in eating, sleeping, fearing, and mating has spoiled his life. Lord Kapila is very much satisfied by his mother's question because the answers stimulate one's desire for liberation from the conditional life of material existence. Such questions are called apavarga vardhanam. Those who have actual spiritual interest are called sat or devotees. Satam prasangat. Sat means that which eternally exists, and asat means that which is not eternal. Unless one is situated on the spiritual platform, he is not sat. He is asat. The asat stands on a platform which will not exist, but anyone who stands on the spiritual platform will exist eternally. As spirit soul, everyone exists eternally, but the asat has accepted the material world as a shelter, and therefore he is full of anxiety. Asat grahan, the incompatible situation of the spirit soul who has the false idea of enjoying matter, is the cause of the soul's being asat. Actually, the spirit soul is not asat. As soon as one is conscious of this fact and takes to Krishna consciousness, he becomes sat. Satam gati, the path of the eternal, is very interesting to persons who are after liberation. And his lordship Kapila began to speak about that path. Okay, so the verse, Canto 3, chapter 25, verse number 12, and it says, Maitreya said, after hearing of his mother's uncontaminated desire for transcendental realization, the Lord thanked her within himself for her questions, and thus his face smiling, he explained the path of the transcendentalists who are interested in self-realization. Well, you can ask the question, how many people are actually interested in self-realization? There are some, definitely. But most of the time, people are more interested in mundane endeavors, how to buy a car, how to go on a vacation, how to pass the SAT test, how to do this, how to do that. Uh, so ultimately, most people are not really interested in the spiritual path or the path of Sat, eternity. So those who have actual spiritual interest are called Sat or devotees. Satam Prasangat. Sat means that which eternally exists, and Asat means that which is not eternal. Unless one is situated on the spiritual platform, he is not Sat. He is on the he is Asat, not eternal. The Asat stands on a platform which will not exist, but anyone who stands on the spiritual platform will exist eternally. Well, question is, how do we situate ourselves on the spiritual platform? Well, that's by associating with genuine devotees and engaging in unalloyed devotional service to please Lord Krishna. So that's how we become situated on the spiritual platform. So asat means that which is not eternal. So if we always are engaged in mundane activities, and which most people are engaged in, they're not really engaged in asat activities. Uh, so therefore, they they miss the boat. Let's put it like that. The boat that takes you back to the spiritual world, and they are in a boat that has holes in it. So they eventually get they get swallowed by the ocean. So we need to be in a boat that elevates us and liberates us from the cycle of birth and death. And so material life is very complicated. There are many different desires and efforts that are taken that lead to what? Nothing. It's like a bridge that goes to nowhere. You know, by the time you get to the end of the bridge, you see that you're in nowhere. It's a bridge that leads to nowhere. So that's what happens when uh, we don't pay attention to Krishna consciousness and make a lot of efforts to achieve this or achieve that. But in the end, we realize, oh, I just was wasting my time because this stuff, this did not liberate me from the cycle of birth and death. So the uh, uh, the worst thing is to uh, waste our life on mundane things, and at the end of life, we suddenly realize, oh my God, I wasted my life. I didn't do the most important thing, which would be to become Krishna conscious. I did a lot of other things that were not related to Krishna consciousness. And now I'm completely confused because I don't know what's going to happen to me now that I'm going to die. Uh, there's a certain, uh, let's say, certitude that a person has when they've spent a life of Krishna consciousness. They actually know where they're going to go to. But a person has just wasted their life in sense gratification. At the moment of death, they don't know where they're going to go. Many times, not many times, but there are some people that say, well, I don't care. You know, I've had a good life. I ate a lot of good food. I had a lot of, uh, friends. I had a lot of sex, this thing, that thing. And so I had a good life. Well, that's not a good life. A good life that is a life that is immortal and you don't have to die, and you are liberated from the cycle of birth and death. That's a good life. But the life where uh, you do a lot of different things, but you're not Krishna conscious at the moment of death. You say, "Well, I don't care if I die. I had a good life." Uh, that's not really true. Most people will be very frightened at the moment of death. The moment of death for a devotee, obviously, is the best moment of life because that's when you're going to see Krishna and go back to Godhead. The moment of life for a materialist is the worst moment because they're going to see something also, but it's going to be Yamaraj instead of Krishna. That's when they realize, oh my God, I wasted my whole life. I did the wrong things. I was misled. I believed things that were not true, and so forth. That's why Devahuti is saying, it's in the purport, she says, Devahuti wanted to cut the tree of material entanglement, and she found the suitable weapon in Kapila Muni. The tree of material existence is explained in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as an aswatha tree whose root is upward and its branches are downward. Obviously, this is something that is extraordinary. You never see trees whose roots are upward and its branches are downward. And it is recommended here that one has to cut the root of this material existential tree with the axe of detachment. What is the attachment? The attachment involves Prakriti and Purusha. Prakriti means material nature, and Purusha means the enjoyer. This is the ultimate, let's say, question that we have to understand. Uh, in this world, there is this Prakriti and Purusha. Purusha means the enjoyer, Prakriti means the enjoyed. The living entities are trying to lord it over material nature. That means they're trying to control things. Since the conditioned soul takes material nature to be the object of his enjoyment, and he takes the position of the enjoyer, he is therefore called Purusha. Okay, so that's the position of everyone. They're all trying to enjoy, and they're all trying to be the enjoyer and the controller. And in this way, they spend their life uh, completely in illusion because we're not the enjoyer. We should act as the uh, servant of the Lord, not trying to be the enjoyer of everything, but the servant of the Lord. So Krishna is full of nectar. So if you become the servant of the Lord, you will be very happy because by coming closer to the Lord, then you also experience all the nectarian pastimes of the Lord. It's not a miserable experience. It's not something that is undesirable. And in fact, if anything, it's the most desirable thing. But due to ignorance, people don't know this. So they try and uh, find their happiness in material activities of sense gratification, thinking that that is the real purpose of life. The more sense gratification they have, the better life they have. All right, so uh, Devahuti really wants to become spiritually situated. And she accepts that her son, Kardama, Kapila Muni, is capable of cutting the hard knot of material attraction. This is what we have to do. We have to cut this hard knot of material attachment. But that knot is very tight. very tightly existing. And the only way we can do that is by regulated acts of devotional service, just like coming in the morning like this on a regular basis is one way, or the most recommended way, of cutting that hard knot of material attraction and transferring that attraction to Krishna. So when we become attracted to Krishna, then that hard knot of material life is cut. And if we don't have the attraction to Krishna, then we get that knot gets harder and harder, and it's difficult to have a spiritual life. And most of the time, one will be engaged in mundane activities. Now, the problem is that this uh, Prakriti and Purusha problem, we are meant to be Prakriti, the servant of the Lord. And the Lord is Purusha, the enjoyer. But being in a state of illusion, we want to be the enjoyer. And we want to enjoy what belongs to the Lord. So, therefore, we usurp what belongs to the Lord and we become a thief. And thieves are always captured and then they suffer. So, the living entities are trying to lord it over material nature. That means they want to control material nature. How can you control material nature? Like the United States has the strongest army in the world, but when there's a hurricane, they're helpless. They can't do anything. So, what is it that we can actually control? We can't control nature. We can control maybe our thoughts and our activities, but we're not going to be able to control nature. We're not going to control God. We're not going to control so many things. We can't even control insects. You know, people sometimes they buy insect repellent uh, chemicals. And when you go to India, so oftentimes devotees get these insect repellents. But it's a losing proposition because there are an infinite number of insects, especially in India. So it's very difficult to kill all the insects. So, what is the solution? The solution is depending on Krishna, uh, and also uh, in the hot weather, uh, covering yourself rather than keeping yourself open. If you keep yourself open, then you're going to get bitten by all the insects. If you cover yourself, well, you won't be so much bitten by the insects. So therefore, oftentimes when people go to India and they start getting bitten, like I've seen like the children who are playing outside in the summertime in India, they get bitten by insects like anything. You know, the whole their legs are all red bites all over their legs. Uh, so we have to learn to protect ourselves. But you know, how can you protect yourself in the hot weather? Uh, it's not easy. So then people use these insect repellents, which are mostly uh, dangerous chemicals. So how then can you protect yourself? Well, you can chant Hare Krishna. You can avoid uh, uh, not. In other words, what the best way to protect yourself is to have clothing on. If you're just walking around with uh, with a lot of parts of your body that are exposed, the insects are going to bite you. But if you have clothing on, even though it might be a little bit uncomfortable in the heat, still you have a chance to uh, uh, not be bitten so much by insects. But little kids, they like to run around, without the warm clothing on in the summertime, and they get bitten like anything. You know, I don't know if you've ever experienced that.
Very smart. They
What?
choose the place.
Oh my God, that's the worst.
Yeah, when we went first time, we covered the first face traveling, like in the
What's
we
that?
covered,
What's that?
when we went for the first time after space travel,
Yeah.
we went to India and then it was my sister's place. And then we thought like everything is fine. And then by the morning we went to Tirupati and got the hair.
So it was on the head.
So it was all the head was like by the next morning it was all like
Little red spots.
yeah and like bumps.
You got bitten.
Yeah, because we got covered everything.
You got bitten at night when you were sleeping.
He was yeah.
Yeah.
It
It's
was
amazing, isn't it?
They also need food.
Yeah, I mean, uh, you have to have clothes on. The only way you can protect yourself. And of course, you can't always protect your head unless you wear something. So you have to have a turban to protect your head. And you learn all these things, little by little. Okay. Well, and you can't beat the insects in India. It's almost impossible. They're going to bite you somehow, one way or the other. But if you keep yourself clothed, it's possible. That's why they have these uh, they have these turbans and all different kinds of clothing to protect themselves, from the sun and from the insects. But if you're just out there, not very clothed very much, you can get sun. What do you call it? Sun stroke, and you can get bitten like anything by the insects. Okay, but yeah, I mean that can happen here in the United States also. In places like Florida, Florida is an insect nation within the United States, and you can get bitten like anything in the summertime, Florida. That's why I never go to Florida. All right, so Devahuti questioned Kapila Muni, for she knew that only he could cut her attachment to this material world. The living entities, in the guises of men and women, are trying to enjoy the material energy. Therefore, in one sense, everyone is Purusha, because Purusha means enjoyer, and Prakriti means enjoyed. In this material world, both the so-called man and so-called woman are imitating the real Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the real Purusha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the enjoyer in the transcendental sense, whereas all others are Prakriti. The living entities are considered Prakriti. Now, you see, this principle of Purusha and Prakriti is very important. Most people go through their whole life thinking I am the Purusha. But actually, we are Prakriti. So right there is a mistake. And the concept that I am the Purusha begins right in childhood. And it can last right through to the moment of death. So how can we learn that we're not Purusha, we're actually Prakriti? We have to listen to the Shastra to understand what is our real position. What is our real, let's say, uh, vocation in life? It should be to act as Prakriti and therefore engage in the devotional service to the Lord. But if we think we're Purusha, then we'll want to be served like a king. by everyone. But how many kings can you have in a country? You can't. If everyone's running around thinking I am the king, then nobody's going to do any work anymore. Uh, but that's not the solution to life's problems. When we accept that we are Prakriti, the enjoyed, then we have to act in such a way as to please Krishna. So, not many people realize that the purpose in life is to please Krishna. They they might not even have knowledge of Krishna. Many people don't have knowledge of Krishna. Uh, so, what are they doing? They're trying to act like Purushas and exploiting others for their own sense gratification. Okay, so it's a very nice statement. It says the intricacies in the material world of the relationship of the Prakriti and Purusha, or the enjoyed and the enjoyer, is called samsara, or material entanglement. And that is a major statement by Prabhupada. Only he could make a statement like that. So this whole idea of Purusha and Prakriti, and Prabhupada says that the intricacies in the material world of the relationship of the Prakriti and the Purusha, or the enjoyed and the enjoyer, is called samsara, or material entanglement. Devahuti wanted to cut the tree of material entanglement, and she found a suitable weapon in Kapila Muni. So, how many people actually come to that realization? I don't think many people come to that realization of the intricacies in the material world of the relationship of the Prakriti and Purusha, or the enjoyed and the enjoyer. And this is called samsara, or material entanglement. So when you have, let's say, a man kidnaps a woman, right, or a child, he is acting as the Purusha, and he's using the kidnapped person as the Prakriti. So that's complete illusion. That's called samsara, or material entanglement. And there, people assume positions that are false, and they ultimately get into trouble. And if you look at people who are, cheaters, liars, and uh, people who take advantage of others, kidnappers, etc., etc., they think that they are the Purusha, and they take advantage of other people and trying to force them to be Prakriti. Uh, and what happens is it just creates havoc in society. If everyone acts as Prakriti and accepts Krishna as the Purusha, now society can become very peaceful, and people will be much happier uh, taking the position of Prakriti than to always try to be the Purusha. Because if everyone's trying to be Purusha, there's tremendous, uh, let's say, going to be tremendous amount of violence. You'll be trying to control others, and the others are trying to control the others. So it's going to be a chaotic society, just like when you have different gangs. There are always these different gangs, and they fight with each other, and they kill each other also. Why? They want to be the Purusha. So this whole concept of Prakriti and Purusha is very important to understand it, because right in front of our eyes, we're going to see this going on. competition, this and competition and entanglement, just like when you're, like for example, uh, these big business guys like Elon Musk and others, they're always competing, and the competition becomes vicious. Um, so, uh, is that like for example, you have what's called deliverables. So people are in great anxiety when they're working in these big companies, and they have to produce deliverables. You know, and why? Because there's severe competition going on. So how can you live in such an atmosphere? It's not very good. It's called the rat race. You ever hear that term, rat race? Right? So uh, some people they opt to leave the rat race of the world of severe competition, and live an idyllic life, in the forest somewhere or with nature and so forth. But even in nature, there's competition. The big the big animal eats the small animal, right? So that competition is everywhere. It's not only amongst human beings, in the animal world also. So how do we ever get away from all that? Well, the only way you can get away from it is to become Krishna conscious and accept that we are Prakriti, we are not Purusha. So this is something that has to be taught to our children. First, we have to learn it, and then we can teach it to our children. That's why Prabhupada is spending so much time explaining the Prakriti Purusha, let's say, issue in life. If we go out throughout life thinking, I am the Purusha, we're going to have a lot of problems. If we go out in life thinking that I am the Prakriti and Krishna is the Purusha, we will avoid many, many problems and have a much more happy and, let's say, uh, uh, meaningful life. So that's why Prabhupada says it is recommended there that one has to cut the root of this material existential tree with the axe of detachment. What is the attachment? So, we have to cut the axe of, we have to use the axe of detachment. But he's saying now, what is the attachment? The attachment involves Prakriti and Purusha. So therefore, this is a big subject, this Prakriti and Purusha. The living entities are trying to lord it over material nature. Since the conditioned soul takes material nature to be the object of his enjoyment, and he takes the position of the enjoyer, he is therefore called Purusha. Devahuti questioned Kapila Muni, for she knew that only he could cut her attachment to this material world. The living entities, in the guises of men and women, are trying to enjoy the material energy. Therefore, in one sense, everyone is Purusha, because Purusha means enjoyer, and Prakriti means the enjoyed. In this material world, both the so-called man and so-called woman are imitating the real Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm sorry, are imitating the real Purusha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the enjoyer in the transcendental sense, whereas all others are Prakriti. The living entities are considered Prakriti. In Bhagavad Gita matter, this is a question you can ask a person. You can say, are you Prakriti or are you Purusha? They'll say, what? What are you talking about? But this is the main problem in life. Like if there's somebody kidnaps a child, well, why does he do such a thing? Because he wants to be Purusha and he wants to have complete control over someone that he kidnaps. He ties them up and puts a blindfold, and takes them somewhere in a secluded place. And now they have complete control over this person. And it happens a lot. It's not a rare thing where somebody kidnaps a child or kidnaps a woman and subjugates them. That means that they falsely think they're the Purusha, and they falsely think that this person that they're controlling is Prakriti. But actually, all of us are actually Prakriti, and the real controller is Krishna. But people try to imitate and become false Purushas. So that's the problem of life. There's too many false Purushas walking around. They're dangerous. you know. So uh, Devahuti questioned Kapila Muni, for she knew that only he could cut her attachment to this material world. Okay, now that's a very significant statement because if you look at just normal people, they have very strong attachments to things in the material world. Attachments that they might even be ready to kill someone else uh, so that they can continue to have those attachments. And that's the story of thieves and dacoits and people like that. They want to be the Purusha, and they'll go even as far as to kill people. Whenever you see these movies about gangsters, well, what are the gangsters trying to do? Well, they're willing to kill people so that they can be the Purusha. Right? So, uh, but when you see people that are very, let's say, nice people that are always kind and gentle and Krishna conscious, that's because they learn the difference between Prakriti and Purusha. It's a very big subject, and you can see how much time Prabhupada is spending on it in these purports to understand this Prakriti Purusha question. Um, so Devahuti questioned Kapila Muni, for she knew that only he could cut her attachment to this material world. The living entities, in the guises of men and women, are trying to enjoy the material energy. Therefore, in one sense, everyone is Purusha, because Purusha means enjoyer, and Prakriti means enjoyed. In this material world, both the so-called man and so-called woman are imitating the real Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the real Purusha. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the enjoyer. Yeah, so you can do a little research. You can go around and ask people, do you think you are Prakriti or Purusha? They say, what? What do you mean? So you can explain to them, well, Purusha means a person who uh, thinks that they can control people and nature. And Prakriti is what is controlled, right? So are you Prakriti or are you Purusha? Well, I think you're probably crazy by asking that question. But actually, that's the fundamental question of life. Are we Prakriti or are we Purusha? Yes.
Maharaj, in India, when we grew up,
Yeah.
So men were conditioned to identify with Purusha, and then women are conditioned to identify with Sri.
Condition to what?
Identify with Sri.
Oh, Sri, yes. Okay.
So there is a common word we use. Purusha means you're referring to.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Is that still going on?
Yeah.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. So what are we exactly? I mean, this is the question of who am I and what is my real position in life? So, uh, right from the beginning of life, we develop a false ego. I mean, false identification of who I am. And it could be, we could go through the whole life with that false ego, right? Uh, it means that uh, I'm the greatest person in the world. But actually, when we recognize, no, there's many people that are much greater than I am, then now you become more realistic. But if you think I am the greatest person in the world, then your whole life is going to be full of, let's say, competition, stress, and so forth. In other words, everyone's trying to be like Elon Musk. Well, everyone can't be like him, right? He obviously has some good karma, and he's wasting that good karma, you know, acting like he's the boss of everyone. But eventually, there's an end to his good karma, and all of a sudden, he can't do what he used to do before. So the uh, uh, the best thing is to become a prakriti and try and please Krishna by our activities. So this prakriti purusha issue is extremely important, and it has to be explained, and we have to think about it, and that's why Prabhupada's taking a long time talking about this prakriti and purusha, or the enjoyed and the enjoyer. And that's why he says in the purport, the intricacies in the material world of the relationship of the prakriti and purusha, or the enjoyed and the enjoyer, is called samsara, or material entanglement. Devahuti wanted to cut the tree of material entanglement, and she found the suitable weapon in Kapila Muni. Why? Because Kapila Muni is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If anyone can cut the hard knot of material attraction, it's God Himself, or the incarnation of God. The tree of material existence is explained in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita as the Aswata tree, whose root is upwards and whose branches are downwards. So right away, we're confused. We never saw a tree with the roots upward and the branches downward. But there is a root, there is something like that. And because of that, we are always trying to, uh, uh, well, we get caught in the net of this upside down tree. So we're looking for the solution in life in the wrong place. Just like one time there was a man, he lost his keys. So he was looking for his keys under a street light. Someone else came up to him and said, "Sir, did you lose something?" He said, "Yes." I said, "What did you lose?" "My keys." He said, "Where did you lose it?" He said, "Somewhere out there." He said, "Why are you looking for it here?" He said, "Well, there's a lamp here. I got some light." You think he'll ever find his keys? No. So in that way, most people are looking for the solution of problems in life in the wrong place.
So the right solution, but in the wrong place.
Yeah, yeah. So they're trying to find the solution in a bar when they're drinking the liquor and things like that. And well, this will be the solution to my suffering. It's not. It just increases the solution. I mean the problem. Yeah. So instead of going to the bar, they should come to the temple. Now they have a chance of solving their problems. And people have problems. They have tremendous problems in life. You know.
Maharaj, I once asked my, she's like, I think she's like a vice president, like pretty senior. And she has 4 kids, girls, and like she, very high profile job. So in one of my mentoring sessions, I asked her like, how do you manage all? There is so much going on. You have your kids, your work is busy. How do you manage? She's like, honestly, it's very hard to manage. Like I drink. That's what she said.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
She said
yeah,
that, huh?
yeah. I mean, in a safe space, it's in a mentoring session. Yeah. So she said like, honestly, I have to sometimes like I just have to drink. That is how I relax. And people, for most people, I would say 99% of people, relaxation is either drinking something, watching movie, or going on vacation.
Okay. Well, vacation is not as bad as drinking. Yeah. But how long can you be on vacation? It only lasts a couple of weeks. Then you come back again to the rat race, you know, as they say in English, the rat race. Yeah.
Eventually, the drinking becomes drugs.
Well, that's why you have bars, right? There's a lot of bars all over Seattle. And obviously, they're all making money because people are coming in and drinking, uh, alcohol. They also nowadays they're starting to have bars where there's no alcohol. You can go and get, like a milkshake or something. Yeah, yeah. Or you get some type of good drink, but there's no alcohol in it.
Mocktails.
What?
It's called a mocktail.
A mocktail.
Yeah. On a
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well, that's better. Okay, so we can't get rid of our misery by intoxicating. That's the wrong path to take. But we can get rid of our misery by becoming Krishna conscious. And that's the first thing a person realizes when they join Krishna consciousness. That by following the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness, most of their miseries go away almost overnight. And they feel relief. And then when they get actually initiated, then really they get the relief. They feel like 10,000 pounds of weight on their head is suddenly it's gone away, especially at the moment of initiation. And they realize, I did the right thing. And, joining the Hare Krishna. Sometimes people think, Hare Krishna is some kind of nonsense organization, and they're very, very skeptical about it. But sometimes they meet nice devotees, and all of a sudden their skepticism changes, and they say, "Well, actually, they're really nice people." So that's why it's very important to be a good representative of Krishna consciousness, so that people don't get the wrong opinion about who we are. And actually, if we insult one person, that means it'll turn into hundreds of people, because that one person will tell everyone, don't go to the Hare Krishnas. They're not good people. They eat babies, and they'll say all kinds of crazy things because they're angry. So it's very important that we treat people with respect. Why? Because everyone has Krishna in their heart. So everyone is a walking, talking mandir. They might not realize it, but we should realize it, that Krishna is in the heart of every living entity. Therefore, we have to be careful how we deal with people. And just like you have to be careful how you deal with the deities in the temple. But actually, the deity is also in the heart of every living entity, even the animals, insects, and so forth. So we have to be careful. I mean, oftentimes I go on walks every day, and sometimes I see these slugs on the ground, right? So I'm real careful not to step on them, you know. And I mean, it's impossible not to step on some living entities, because some living entities are microscopic. You know? But the bigger ones, like the slugs and ants and things like that. We should avoid stepping on them. Yeah, and there was one. There's a story of a person who was very, let's say, it was a mean person, and he came in contact with uh, Lord Chaitanya, and then he suddenly realized, that he should give up being mean and uh, be merciful and very careful about the way he's living and acting. And then one day, Lord Chaitanya and one other person were walking together, and then they saw this person that had been, educated by Lord Chaitanya, and he started running towards Lord Chaitanya, but he was running like in zigzags like this, and they asked him, I said, why did you come in zigzags? Well, I was trying to avoid all the ants and little living entities. So this is a person who was killing, half killing uh, living entities and then torturing them to death. And now he was so careful not to kill any, even insects, right? So therefore he had to walk in a zigzag way. So Lord Chaitanya said, see what happens when a person becomes Krishna conscious, they become so careful not even to kill a little ant. And we should be careful. No, even little ants, we shouldn't step on them because they're living entities. Now, we can't avoid all living entities because some are really small. I mean, like this morning, I saw this really small little living entity, in the kitchen, in the bathroom. Right? It's like, very small. But he had everything. He had legs. He was walking. He or she was walking. So I said to myself, I got to be careful here. I don't want to hurt this poor little insect. Now, you can go even further. You can sort of get some paper and sort of catch it on the paper and then go to the window or the door and then throw it outside. But this one was so small, I didn't do anything because if I tried to catch it, I might kill it easily. So, but just let it, walk around and do its thing. All right, so here is the problem of this aswata tree, whose root is upward and whose branches are downward. It is recommended here that one has to cut the root of the material existential tree with the axe of detachment. What is attachment? The attachment involves prakriti and purusha. So this is a big issue in spiritual life, understanding prakriti and purusha. The living entities are trying to lord it over material nature. Since the conditioned soul takes material nature to be the object of his enjoyment, and he takes the position of the enjoyer, he is therefore called Purusha. Well, this is what Devahuti wanted to stop. Devahuti questioned Kapila Muni, for she knew that only he could cut her attachment to this material world. In other words, trying to be the Purusha. The living entities in the guises of men and women are trying to enjoy the material energy. Therefore, in one sense, everyone is Purusha because Purusha means enjoyer and Prakriti means enjoy. In this material world, both the so-called man and so-called woman are imitating the real Purusha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I'm sorry, the real Purusha, uh, colon. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is actually the enjoyer in the transcendental sense, whereas all others are Prakriti. So here we see this big issue about, am I Prakriti or am I Purusha? And if we realize, after being educated, that we are always Prakriti and Krishna is Supreme Purusha, then we have a spiritual life. But if we go around thinking we are Purusha and everybody else is Prakriti, we're always going to encounter stress and competition and difficult relationships and so forth. So, how can we develop this uh, consciousness of being the Prakriti and not the Purusha? By coming to class and hearing about it. Do they teach this in school? I mean, uh, you ever you ever hear anything about this in school? Oh, so that's why we have to read the Shastras to understand what is Prakriti and what is Purusha.
Not even in the Indian schools.
Yeah.
Really? Wow. In India.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a big issue. Everyone wants to be Purusha, but we're actually all Prakriti, the enjoyed. And Krishna is the real Purusha. Once we come to that conclusion, then we become a devotee. But as long as we are under the illusion of being the Purusha, we make many, many mistakes. And at the moment of death, we can't remember Krishna. So we continue in the samsara, the birth, death, old age, and disease. As soon as we accept that I am Prakriti, then we engage in devotional service wholeheartedly. At the moment of death, we can remember Krishna and go back to the spiritual world. All right, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions?
An observation, Guru Maharaj, the life of Devahuti versus Devaki, Yashoda, where both cases Krishna comes as child, but only in Devahuti's case, she gets an uncontaminated desire to seek for
Education.
education. But
From a
in
child.
any other places we don't see. So that's where I'm wondering. Having a supreme as child itself is a and very blessed one, and she's hankering for self-realization so much from this verses. Very interesting families. You know, for us we don't have anything like not supreme about child, or we don't get that serious as they were with you.
Well, don't forget, Kapila Muni is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So he was an exceptional child. But the idea of Prakriti and Purusha should be understood. If we all act as Purusha, there's going to be problems. If we all act like Prakriti and take instruction from senior devotees or from the Lord himself, we're not going to have all these problems. We're in our right position. So that's why in life, we have to ask this question, who am I? And what should I really be doing? Two fundamental questions. Who am I exactly? And what should be my real occupation? Well, who am I? I'm the eternal servant of Krishna. And what is my real occupation? It's to be engaged in the devotional service of the Lord. Pretty simple. It's not, not rocket engineering. But most people never come to that conclusion. They want to be the Purusha, the enjoyer, and they want to more or less control people and animals and so many different things. They want to be the controller and the enjoyer. So therefore, they'll buy a gun and go out and go hunting, thinking that they are the enjoyer. And they get these big, big guns to shoot little rabbits. They scare the heck out of the rabbits. The rabbits can know when there's someone that's uh, trying to kill them, and they get scared like anything. You can see they stop and and their ears start twitching, right? And then sometimes they get so scared they can't move, so they get killed easily. And other times they run as fast as they can. I don't know if you ever noticed this about rabbits. Yeah, we have a lot of rabbits in here also, and you see that they're, they if they see or hear something, they run away right away. And when they're eating, they're going like this all the time to see if there's somebody that's going to kill them. It must be a very bad type of life. You're always afraid. Uh, to the wild rabbits, they're always afraid. Like even here, they come here, but if you make some noise or something, immediately they run away. Why? Because self-preservation. All of us, we're concerned about self-preservation. And the big animal eats the small animal. That's what's going on in nature. So the big company swallows the small company. That's the same thing as the big animal eats the small animal. So that type of competition really destroys people's uh, feeling of compassion and love, and they want to be the purusha, or the enjoyers all the time. So therefore, we have to hear the shastra and understand this prakriti and purusha concept. It is absolutely important. Then we decide, am I purusha or am I prakriti? Right. All right. So, are there any questions about this?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Yes.
Question I had, Maharaj. Sometimes you want to be careful to not hurt any living entity. Um, I try to do that. If I see a spider, maybe I can just carry it and put it outside because everything has Krishna. But sometimes if a mosquito comes and bites you,
Yeah.
are you allowed to kill it, or like that is the dilemma I had when I went to India, or should you just leave it? Like it's biting you and you can see it. Should you hurt it, or should you just let it go?
Well, first of all, in India, you should always be covered with clothing. You shouldn't walk around with your arms and legs exposed, because, especially, in the hot weather, because there's going to be bugs all over the place, and they're going to be looking for a good meal, meaning your blood. That mosquito, he lands on you, and then he has this sharp knife-like, pointed thing, and puts it right into your skin to get to a blood vessel, and he sucks that blood. And then that's it. You're scratching it, and you feel, oh my God, and you see it's all red, and you got bitten. So yeah, the only way you can avoid that, that's why people, they have a lot of clothing on, or they have shawls on, they're trying to, that way it's more difficult for the mosquito to bite you. But if you're completely exposed, then you're going to get these little red things all over your body. They're itching, and that itch doesn't go away for a long time, days and days and days. So uh, we're not uh, the Purusha. The insects are the Purushas, and they're feasting on our blood. So we have to be very careful in a situation like that. And there's other things too. There's not only. I remember the first time I went to India. Uh, so there were these lizards in my room. You know, they're all over the place. Yeah. Of course, they're not dangerous, but when you go there, you're not used to seeing lizards running around, in your house.
Cockroaches.
Huh?
Cockroaches.
Well, oh yeah. Oh my God. In uh, Calcutta, there's huge cockroaches like that. And if you don't have a clean house, they're running all over the place. They're gigantic. Have you ever seen those big cockroaches? Yeah. Yeah. So we have to be very, very careful in foreign places because there are things that are normal for the people that live there, but for us, it's very dangerous. So the first time I went to India, I saw this, this
Lizard.
lizard, in the room, and I thought, oh, this is terrible, but actually it's not. The lizard's not going to do anything. And they also always go like that. So usually you're talking to someone and you say something, and then you hear that means, oh, it's right what I said.
In various week, even me that used to sleep outside on the field, Maharaj. If you were
Yeah, you're completely exposed.
exposed to everything, they crawl on you, they do whatever.
Yeah. No, but you have to have that mosquito.
No, nothing, Maharaj.
You just sleep
Yeah,
open.
just open.
Lizards do a good job eating the mosquitoes.
What's that?
Lizards do a good job eating mosquitoes.
Oh, everybody's got their
This one.
purpose in life.
Um,
Yeah.
At least our family used to take care of sheep. The sheep are in the open the field. People used to sleep on just outside, on the ground,
On the ground.
on the ground. Nothing. It's like you're open to ritual sharing.
So what did they do if they get bitten?
Nothing. Some of the we got used to immunity or we don't feel.
Ah, okay. Wow. God bless those people.
what doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
Well, there's big competition in nature, Everybody has to, all the living creatures have to eat something, right? The mosquitoes are biting us to get our blood, right? And so they're like Draculas, they're blood suckers. And that's their food. So,
Maybe they might like to bite people who want that comfort.
well, they like to bite, believe me, they like to bite white people that come from America.
You, they found you, they know. Yeah, they
No, because
Soft skin.
we eat but we eat a lot of sugary things. That's what they're going after because our blood is full of sweet blood.
I used to sleep on the field to open the like ground and also I didn't used to feel anything biting or anything like that.
Well, you have to cover yourself also.
No, not even covering sometimes unless it's cold.
No, but see, if your blood is it's all about what your blood tastes like. So if you have a certain type of diet and everything, like you're not eating a lot of sweets, then the insects won't really go after you because they want to get that sweet blood.
Sweet, yeah. Sweets are more.
So if you have neem all the time, you chew on neem, then they don't touch you because your blood is more, what do you call it, bitter.
So we used to brush with that only, Maharaj.
that's why.
Neem only.
That's why it's a system.
Yeah. So
And they grow in India.
So the conflict, not conflict, but there is a self-preservation versus the Purusha. There is that
That's what I was asking.
balance between at what point you are willing to be completely dominated.
Well,
versus-
I mean, obviously, you have to kill something to eat, right? Even tomatoes, the living entity, so. But there are certain things that are recommended, and there are other things that are forbidden. No one can live without killing. Right? You kill the tomato, you kill the orange, you kill this, you kill that. So, but there are certain things you're allowed to kill and certain things you're not allowed to. So we're not allowed to kill animals, but we can kill apples and pears and things like that. They've been given to us as our food, just like the tigers has the right to kill an animal and eat it. Right? That's the dharma of the cat of the tiger. But we're not meant to do that. We're meant to just be very vegetarians. However, we do have two canine teeth, which means that if you insist on eating meat, well, at least you have those two canines to help you do that. But the cow, or I mean the dog's got like 30, 40 canine teeth. And it's got a very small intestine. Right? Our intestine will go like 25 feet, right? But the intestine of the dog is rather small. And therefore you can bite the animal, kill it, and then chew on it a little bit, and then eliminate it rather quickly. Therefore, it's made for eating other animals or meat. But we have a very long intestine, like 25 feet long, right? So in order for all the food to go through our intestine, if we start eating wrongly, things get stuck in the intestines. And then you start to burp and bad smells and you get sick and so forth because we ate things that we shouldn't eat. And now we're getting sick. So to keep that 25-foot intestine clean, we have to be able to eliminate. But if we get constipated and we don't eliminate, and then we get sick. So it's very important to know what things to eat and what things not to eat. So if you eat things that uh, don't have much fiber in them, and a lot of sweets, gulabs, and things like that, eventually you're going to get sick. But if you eat, apples and other things that have a lot of fiber in them, you're going to be healthier. And in order to do that, we do have two canine teeth to chew on an apple, for example, but not to chew on meat. And we're not really. Our body is not made for eating meat. The body of a dog is made for eating meat. The body of a human being is not meant for eating meat. So we have to realize these things by studying, in not necessarily studying anatomy in school, but studying knowledge in shastras that explain all these things. Right? You don't have to really read the curriculum that given to you in school. You simply have to read the shastras that we have, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and you'll learn all these things. What to eat, when to eat, and so forth. Otherwise, we're going to make a lot of mistakes and unnecessarily suffer. So there's no excuse because now we have the Shastras and they're not being kept secret. Previously, there was this secretiveness and exclusiveness. Only the pundits would read the Shastras, and it was all in Sanskrit, and the common people, they had no access. But now everybody has access to the Shastras, and everybody has a chance to organize their life to make it a sattvic life. Right. So there's no more excuses now. You can't say, "Oh, I didn't know." You didn't know because you were lazy, but now all the knowledge is there. You can't say, "I don't know." You can say, "I'm lazy and I'm not interested in helping myself," but now all the knowledge is present. You have a what is it called?
ChatGPT.
Yeah. Every question can be answered. So therefore, we should take advantage of it. Hare Krishna. Jai. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Jai. Yeah. Hare Krishna. be happy. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram.
Ravi, friend. This is our,
That's Maharaj.
Nice.
We were all friends for.
During the
yeah,
What is that?
Anand.
Anand Mela.
Ananda Mela, so you can.
Oh, you're a
met with you.
volunteer.
Yes.
You use your energy to serve Krishna.
I don't know if I need.
Volunteer Maharaj. He is very kind to the devotees, Maharaj.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, to all
He's
of
a
us.
friendly to the devotees.
We all are friends, Maharaj.
Well, thank you very much for being a